Okay, in this video, I want to talk about the importance of saving your cutout correctly. And the reason I want to do that is because if you save your cutout correctly, the likelihood of you having to redo the entire cutout is very high. With that being said, if you had actually saved your work path, which I haven't showed you how to do that yet, I'm going to do that in the next couple videos. But if you didn't save your work path, you for sure have to restart, which is a really terrible feeling, especially when you spend so much time on a cutout. So it's really, 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 really important that you save correctly. Now, I hope that if you accidentally closed without saving, because at the end of my video, I went back and forth about whether I was going to show it to you now. If you accidentally closed it, that's okay. Just pay attention, watch this video. The instructions are also in the PowerPoint that's on Google Classroom, so you can check that out too. But what we're actually going to do is we're going to save one copy as a Photoshop file, and then we're going to save the other copy as a JPEG so you can see what happens. So, with your graphic open, we're going to go File, Save As, and we're going to go to our shared drive where we normally do into our working pages, lessons. I'm going to make a folder for Photoshop G. And then inside of this, I'm just going to call it, football players. Fine. And notice that the default actually is a Photoshop file. So that should be a hint to you, like, oh, I probably need to save it as a Photoshop file. So have it here and then go ahead and click Save. And then click OK. And then we're also going to go File, Save As, and this time we're going to save it as a JPEG. And it will again go, hey, just so you know, you have an unlocked layer. What that means over here is that we don't have that little lock sign, which is typical of a JPEG image. So that's okay, just click Save, and then click OK. And then I want you to close this down. And so now back at this screen, we're going to pretend like we are ready to use our cutout in, one of our graphics or in InDesign for one of our spreads, and we need to go check on it. So we're going to go and navigate to our shared drive and into our working pages and into our lessons for Photoshop G, and you're going to see you have a football player and a football player. One is a JPEG, one is our Photoshop file. Let's open the Photoshop file first, because this is the right way. When you open a cutout, you should still see the gray and white background. And the reason being is that when we put this in, that means that all of this gray and white is transparent, which is the whole point of us having a cutout. Now, if we go back to that folder and we open our JPEG of our football player, because it's a JPEG, it opens in the Windows Photo Viewer, so we're going to say Open with Photoshop. And what do you notice that happened? Well, first off, we have an entirely white background, and our background layer is once again locked. So what has happened is instead of, JPEGs can't keep a transparent background. They can't keep that gray and white check. The file type is not designed for that. So when you say to save a Photoshop or to save a cutout as a JPEG, what happens is it automatically will stick a white background on there. And so now you're like, how do I get rid of the white? And I'll say, did you save your work path? And we go over here to our paths. And the only work path that is there is that little eeny tiny little piece up here, because that was the last work path that we did. So at this point, I would say, I'm really sorry, but you're going to have to re-go through and cut the whole thing out again, which is such a defeating feeling. So I cannot stress enough to you that you want to make sure that you save your cutouts as Photoshop files. If you save them as JPEGs, you will have to do the work again, which is an awful, awful, awful feeling. So don't do that. Always save cutouts as Photoshop files. So with that being said, we can actually close both of these. We are done with this graphic, and I will meet you over in our next lesson.